Hi pals, welcome back, or welcome if you're new here. As you can see, I once again have a different filming setup because I moved my room around, and hopefully you guys like this setup. Feels cuter, honestly. Also, sorry in advance if I'm super red. I am very hot, but I will suffer for fashion. So today, as you can tell by the title of this video, I'm just going over what books I've read recently. So that's February and March, because I kind of forgot to do a February wrap up, and then it was too late into March by the time I wanted to do that. So 2-month wrap up. I'm gonna go through them pretty quickly. I'm not gonna give synopsises, summaries of what the books were about, because that would just take too long, and honestly I suck at describing what books are about. So yeah, I'm just gonna go over the books and say whether I like them or not. So the first book that I finished in February was The Battle of the Labyrinth by Rick Riordan, and that is the second to last book in the Percy Jackson series, and I definitely loved it. It had so much action and just so much was happening. I was like, oh my god, when are these things that I am predicting actually gonna happen? And yeah, obviously 5 stars. I think I gave pretty much all of the books in this series 5 stars. I definitely feel stupid waiting so long before reading this series. Like, I was so late. Next, I read The Hazards of Love by Stan Stanley. First of all, that last name, first name combo, amazing. This was a graphic novel that I got through NetGalley, and I really enjoyed it. It was really fun. I think this is probably the highest rated graphic novel that I've gotten through NetGalley. Actually, no, I rated one other higher, but very close. It was really good. I really enjoyed it and thought that the premise and the idea of it was really interesting. Next, I read Black Sun by Rebecca Roanhorse, and of course everyone has been raving about this book, or at least they were last month, and I felt really excited reading it because I for once was reading a book that was getting talked about a lot while that was happening. Like, I feel like I'm always late to that and people have moved on by the time I get to the book, but this time I was reading it while it was happening, so it was nice. I felt very part of the community reading this book, which I think heightened my enjoyment of the book. It was really good. I listened to the audiobook, and man, audiobooks can really transform my experience reading a book, because listening to that I was like, I'm pretty sure that I would like it less if I had just read it myself. It would be harder to keep up with everything that was going on, but the audiobook was great, the story was great, and yeah, I really enjoyed it. Next, I read In the Dream House by Carmen Maria Machado, and again, this is a very popular book right now and was especially being talked about when I read it. So again, very enjoyable to have that community kind of moment. I loved this book. It is, I think, the first memoir that I've read, and I listened to the audiobook, which I believe is narrated by the author, which just again heightened my level of enjoyment. And even though this was about something pretty sad and it wasn't a happy story really, talked about abuse and stuff, it was still so beautifully written that it was still really enjoyable, because I know sometimes reading about trauma can just not really be an enjoyable experience, but because the writing was so beautiful, it definitely was. I rated this 5 stars because honestly blew my mind. Like, it made me want to just read a ton of nonfiction, which is great because I've been wanting to get into nonfiction more this year, so shout out to this book. Next, I read White All Around by Wilfred Lupano, and this is another graphic novel that I got through NetGalley, and I really enjoyed this one as well. I gave it 4 stars, I believe, and it was just a really interesting and like informative graphic novel. It was beautifully illustrated. I really liked the drawings, and that like drew me in, and then the story kept me there kind of thing. And knowing that it was like based on true stuff was really interesting. Like, I thought that was a really good way to educate people on history through graphic novels, because I know, you know, nonfiction can be kind of intimidating sometimes, but in graphic novel form it might be easier to process, I guess. Next, I read Heartberries by Therese Marie Mailhot, and again, a nonfiction memoir, I believe, or yeah, memoir, and again, was pretty centered around trauma and abuse, and this time it was by a Indigenous female author, and I thought that was a really interesting thing to learn about, like from that point of view, and to kind of, you know, learn more about that kind of culture and the kind of life that some of them live. And yeah, I really enjoyed this one as well. Again, it was a audiobook. I definitely think that audiobooks are my way to go when it comes to nonfiction. It definitely keeps me more interested and like in the story. Yeah, overall really good. I was on a roll with nonfiction in February. Next, I read Sprite and the Gardener by Joe Witt, and again, this was a graphic novel from NetGalley, and this might actually be my new all-time favorite graphic novel. It was stunning. Like, I don't even know how to put into words how beautifully illustrated this graphic novel was, and how just like wholesome and cute the story was. Like, I definitely want to go out and buy this book and just look at it if I'm sad, because just so many good feelings, so many wholesome feelings, and yeah, I just really enjoyed this one. I could talk about this one for a long time just saying how much I love it. Next, I read A Dark and Hollow Star by Ashley Shuttleworth, and again, a NetGalley book that I got and now own a copy of right there. This book, man. First of all, I requested it on NetGalley because the cover is just out of this world stunning. Hang on. Like, are you kidding? Do you see this? Like, this might be the prettiest cover I own or of a book that I've read. After reading this, it immediately went into my top 5 favorite books of all time. It's that good. Like, I cannot say good enough things about this book. If you haven't read it, please read it. It is so good. Plus, it's set in Toronto, and I'm from Vancouver, so like Canadian. I don't know, it just made me happy. Next, I read The Magic Fish, and I looked up how to pronounce this author's last name before filming this, and my brain is blank, so I feel really bad. I promise I'm working on getting better at pronouncing authors' names, but for now, it's there. I don't want to completely butcher it. Sorry. I had this book on hold. It's a graphic novel. I had it on hold at my library for so long. Like, it took forever for me to get this book, but as soon as I got it, I read it in like a day and a half. I wanted to read it faster, but I didn't want it to be over, so it was really, really beautiful. I really enjoyed it. The story was so interesting, and the way that it was told was so interesting because it blended like what was happening in reality with fairy tales, and it switched like color schemes depending on which it was, reality or the fairy tale, and I thought that was so cool and so interesting and unique. I don't know if that's like a common thing, but I personally don't think I've seen it, so I thought it was really, really cool. I ended up giving this 5 stars as well. I'm just not picky, I think, because I think almost all of the books that I've mentioned have been 4 or 5 stars. I'm just easy to please. Next, I read How to Fail at Flirting by Denise Williams, and this book I gave 3.5 stars, but I think looking back I'm gonna change it to a 4 stars. I gave it a 3.5 stars at the beginning because I went into it blind, and there's quite a trigger warning for abuse and trauma in this. I thought I was going into some like just fluffy romance, but no. I mean, yes, but there was also the other stuff going on that I wasn't prepared for it, so it triggered me pretty badly. But that is my own fault. It is not the fault of the book. I mean, I think books should like have trigger warnings at the beginning of them just for this kind of thing, you know, people going in without realizing and then being like punched in the face with some triggering content. But I still enjoyed it. I thought it was very cute. I liked the characters. I thought their romance was really cute, and I was rooting for them to end up together, so that's all I really need in a romance. Next, I reread A Court of Thorns and Roses because this bad boy, Court of Silver Flames, came out, so I needed to do a reread. I listened to the audiobook for these for the first time, and I'm not gonna lie, when I read these the first time, I was pronouncing so many things wrong, but specifically, I pronounced Rhysand as Rhysand, and when I was listening to this book, I was going crazy. I was like, this is not how you pronounce it. But by the end I was like, why was I ever pronouncing it that way? Rhysand sounds so much better, and like Reese sounds so much better than Rice. Like, stupid. But I ended up giving this a 4 stars for the reread, and I did feel differently than how I previously felt when I first read it, because when I first read it I hated Nesta. I thought she sucked. I thought she was the worst character. But now, maybe I understand why people root for her. I may really like her now. Still hate Tamlin though. And next, of course, is A Court of Mist and Fury. Gave this a 5 stars. I don't even know what else to say, but I now love Nesta, and Asriel is still my favorite character. Okay, I have to say this. I wasn't gonna mention it because I know that people have very conflicting feelings about it, but it was recently announced that A Court of Thorns and Roses is being made into a TV show, and I think pretty much everyone that I follow is not excited, and I completely understand why. I agree with most of the reasons, but it doesn't stop me from being excited. I'm really nervous for the casting, and definitely not looking forward to fans and the discourse online that it will cause, but I think it'll be interesting, and I hope that they at least do it well and it doesn't suck. Next, I read Villainous by Stoney Williams, and again, graphic novel from NetGalley. I was really in a graphic novel requesting mood, apparently. I didn't really enjoy this one that much, but again, I think that was my fault. It's not the book's fault. It's about superheroes and like the bad guys are actually the good guys and whatever. Just not really my thing. I pretty much just like Marvel movies. When it comes to superheroes, anything else I'm like, I don't really care. And I DNF'd the last superhero book that I tried to read, so I don't know why I requested this and thought I would like it. But the art was really cool, and if you are into that sort of premise, I would recommend this one because it is interesting and it is really cool to look at, so just wasn't for me, unfortunately. Next, I read A Court of Wings and Ruin. I don't really think that I need to talk anymore about A Court of Thorns and Roses, but of course gave it 5 stars. Love it. Amazing. Asriel's still my fave. And next, I read The Last Olympian by Rick Riordan. This took me so long to read. I think I started it like February 4th or something and finished it in March, because I was just so scared. I'm like, everyone that saw that I had started reading it was like replying to me saying that it made them cry or it's their favorite one in the series, and I was like not mentally prepared, for one, for it to be over, and for 2, to be emotionally destroyed, and I was. Still gave it 5 stars. Still thought it was amazing. I'm still mad that I was so late to the train, but I really, really, really enjoyed it, and I am now a Percy Jackson stan. Okay, somehow I missed this book, so I read it before The Last Olympian, but I read Bruised by Tanya Boteju. This book, man, this book. I got it through NetGalley. Again, sobbed my eyes out. I loved this. Tanya is from Vancouver, so I feel really good like supporting her and promoting her and her books, and I have loved both of her books. They are both incredible and would highly recommend them. This one is about roller derby, and now I am obsessed with watching roller skating videos, and yes, I do have many pairs of roller skates now on my wish list because I want to do that. I can't do roller derby because my body is broken enough, but roller skating, I'm here for it, and I love this book so much. And once again, I read another graphic novel from NetGalley. This time it was Cheer Up by Crystal Fraser. I loved this. I gave it 4 stars. I thought it was so cute, and it's about cheerleading, and it's very queer and romance, and I just, wholesome and cute, and who doesn't love a wholesome, cute, queer romance, especially in graphic novel form. So if you have the chance, I would definitely recommend checking this one out. Next, I read A Court of Frost and Starlight, Sarah J. Maas. I don't know what else to say about these books, other than this book really makes me so interested in A Court of Silver Flames because Nesta and Cassian, I'm very excited to get to it. I currently have the audiobook on hold. I do have the physical book, but I kind of want to like both read it and listen to it, continue with the audiobooks. So I'm just waiting to get that in, and then I will be able to read that and can stop trying to avoid spoilers because there are already so many. Next, I read How Moon Fuentes Fell in Love with the Universe by Raquel Vasquez Gilliland. Okay, this book, got it through NetGalley again. I have a full thought out review on Goodreads. If you want to check that out, I can link that so that you guys can read that if you want, but honestly, I kind of think this might be my new favorite book. This book, like, destroyed me. Like, I was crying through the entire thing. It was too good. And, like the title says, how she fell in love with the universe. As cheesy as this sounds, this book might be the reason why I fell in love with the universe. Everything that it talked about and like how Moon like experienced the world and everything around her made me start to experience that, and also made me very, very interested in getting into like witchy type stuff, tarot, learning about plants, all that. Made me very interested in that. And I will say that this book is heavy on abuse. So that is a major, 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 major trigger warning, I would say. There's a lot of it, and it's intense, and also parent death, because I know that that in itself can be a trigger. So I really loved it. I thought it was an insanely beautiful book that I would recommend to everyone, but yeah, those trigger warnings are big, and I understand if it's too much for you, but yes, incredible. 10 out of 10 would recommend. Next, I read When My Time Comes, Conversations About Whether Those Who Are Dying Should Have the Right to Determine When Life Should End by Diane Rehm. My god, that is a long title. I read this because I'm doing the buzzword challenge thing on Storygraph, and March's word was time, and I found this on Libby. Honestly, this is such a random book for me to read. It's literally interviews with people that have experience with being terminally ill and looking for assistance to die by physicians, doctors. I don't remember, they said that they had like a correct term for it, but like general knowledge is that it's like doctor-assisted suicide, basically. I thought this was really interesting. I have always been pro that. Like, I think that that's something that should be legal and not super stigmatized. There's like one Grey's Anatomy episode that talks about it, and yeah, that's what like made me aware of this and made me like form my opinion, but this book really like made it so that it was a hard set in stone opinion. And I thought it was really beautiful to hear these people's stories and like have a full conversation about death, like without it being a big deal or something scary. So yeah, I really enjoyed that. And finally, A Fa Love Story by Lone Lay. I love this. I have seen so many people talking about it, and I once again listened to the audiobook, and I thought that that was really a good idea because they do incorporate Vietnamese in it, and like I wouldn't know how to pronounce that stuff, but hearing somebody say it to me, I think it's really, really interesting to like hear that blend and hear how the words are supposed to be pronounced. Yeah, I thought it was really cute. It was like Romeo and Juliet, but with competing pho restaurants, which I thought was such a cute like premise. and yeah, I gave it 5 stars. I thought it was great. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was wholesome and cute and dealt with important topics at the same time. So yeah, I would definitely recommend this book. Okay, that is the end of this video. I've been filming for 32 minutes. Hopefully this video isn't that long after I edit. I am very hot. This shirt may look cold, but it is not. It traps the heat. I am dying. But I hope you guys enjoyed that. I feel like I was a little bit chaotic. I feel a little chaotic today, so hopefully it's still enjoyable. And hopefully I can start getting videos out more frequently. I keep saying this, but I really want to try. I want to make an effort. I think this filming setup is cute, so maybe that'll motivate me. But yes, hopefully you guys enjoyed this, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!